Two.
All right, are you good, Mr. Wood? All right, without any further ado, I would like to call to order the regular school committee meeting on Wednesday, February the 14th, 2024. I ask that we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. We could just bow our heads and open our hearts for a moment of reflection. I thank you all for that. And now, unless there are any items to 2.1 to 2.5 that would like to be, a member would like to have removed and discussed, I look to have the consent agenda approved. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We will vote via roll call.
Travis Audi,
Aye.
Hannah Ayat,
Aye.
Canaan.
Excellent. The consent agenda carries. Item 3.1. Mr. Andy Ryan.
Hey, Sir, I would think that possibly in the future, look at how you handle surveys.
Okay.
We spent 3 hours on Zoom yesterday. I don't find it very educational for kids our young, as young as ours, and they sure do love snow. You get them outside in the afternoon, and they ended up with several hours of homework too. So I think if you want to, I mean, I understand why you're doing Zoom school on snow days, so you don't have to go to the end of the year, but I would ask you to recognize that snow days now are kind of rare for us, and they're going to get rarer as we go forward. And so maybe if we had 5 or 6 or something, you might think about trying to keep that tail towards the end of June, but I really ask that you think about your structure. Maybe your intent was to have less Zoom than we had, but we had a solid 3 hours of Zoom. And I don't know how that is really educational. And then we had a pretty huge homework packet too. I don't think that's the case for most of the classes, but that was our reality. And so, but it's nice for the kids to wake up and not have anything other than to watch the snowfall a couple times a year. And so maybe you think about building a couple of those days in, so you can give those away if you need to. I mean, Roger Williams decided that they won't let us be on Zoom anymore during snow days because not everybody can get on the internet, and so we can leave some folks behind. And if we're doing that in a university, I'm not that worried about leaving my kids behind because they're adults and they can catch up if they need to. But our second graders, I think that, luckily we didn't lose power, but man, our internet, I mean, little Compton doesn't have great, power and internet services here. So I just asked you to look at that. And the other item I put on there that I think it would be helpful that you start talking about now, considering you're going to be populating classrooms over the summer, is the way you populate those classrooms, move students around, things like that. I'd like you to come up with a formal policy for the timeline in which parents can know what classrooms their kids are in, and then also how you would handle movement of students across classes so that students aren't making requests that aren't handled maybe equitably across classrooms. I know you probably get, it's a small town, I'm sure you get 1,000,005 requests for whatever reason, right? But I think it would benefit you as a committee or as a school that has kind of formal program. So because we had students that are supposed to be in the same class when they're in kindergarten, and then they got displaced by some related kids that definitely were put together, some kind of movement. And so our kids were friends and they were kind of expecting to be together, and then all of a sudden they weren't. Well, that's quite a bit of anxiety, so it kind of impacted that. That was several years ago. But I think if you had some kind of formal program where you said, we're going to populate classes with professionals, this is what we do, here is the results of that by a certain date, then we would know what class our kids are in, and then know who their classmates are, and they can start talking about that and be excited about it. And then if there was some type of reasons, parents or somebody wanted some change, y'all had a formal process that you would undergo to see that through. I think that would benefit. I think it's a good time to start looking at that sort of thing now. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ryan. And in an effort to be transparent and inclusive, I know there were some ladies that walked in after. Did either of you want to make a public comment or have something you'd like to see on a future agenda? I thank you both for your attendance here this evening. And Ms. Megan, welcome. Thank you, Dr. Ryan. We will take that under advisement. I know notes have been made. Excellent. We are moving right along. Item 4. Principal McKinnon will be doing the spotlight
Sure.
at Wilbur McMahon.
Two things on this before I get to the actual student spotlight. I see on the agenda, board-related issues. We have had 2 since the start of the year that have been investigated as bullying issues. In terms of our curriculum, John, if you can get that first. Three things basically to look at. First of all, we have a change in our math curriculum. We have gone from, at grades K through 5 level, Eureka Math, we have gone kind of to the next level, which is called Eureka Math Squared. Eureka Math Squared, the teachers who taught it in grades K through 5, very similar. However, Eureka Math Squared is a little more simplified, it's student-friendly. The fonts are certainly appropriate for and readable for our age levels. Questions are age appropriate. And this Eureka Math Squared uses a lot of visuals, so it's a lot easier for the students. A lot of districts in our state are on Eureka Math, and they are moving towards the Eureka Math Squared. There are new social studies standards that are now out. We had Mr. Lee Torres, our 7th, 8th grade social studies teacher, go to a PD on January 23rd, looking at those standards. We are looking at new textbooks for grades 6 through 8 that are using these new standards. The new standards are, you know, like anything, we want our students to be engaged citizens, certainly as they get older. And this new standard is really pushing that out towards the kids, towards our students. And finally, Miss Natalie Eliason, who is a Little Compton resident, works for EBEC, has been working with our teachers, science teachers in particular, you know, working on in-school PDs, pulling them in, looking at what they're doing, how they can improve their craft. And I think without a doubt, if you look at PD, certainly lends itself to increased student achievement. And I think Natalie is a big part of that at EBEC. Next slide, please. A couple of slides regarding our students. First of all, our First Tech Lightning program, they finished in 10th place this past weekend at New England Institute of Technology, 10th out of 24, and there were 23 high schools finished 10th as a whole.
Did the other schools know that we snuck in?
Well, they can look at the size.
Oh, man.
But they absolutely rocked it. They did a fantastic job, and I need to shout out our 2 coaches, coordinators, Mr. Josh Gay and Miss Marissa Brazil. They've been working with the group of 12, 13, really since the probably the end of September, 2 days a week, from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock. I saw them in their first round heat up at New England Tech, and they did a fantastic job. Really, really unique to see what, you know, the technology philosophy is doing. And it really has grabbed these kids, and they've really done a fantastic job with it. That was this past weekend at New England Tech. Next slide. Wilbur the Eagle, some of you have seen him. He is our new mascot. He has made his first public appearance at our Block Island game on February 2nd. He was making appearances here or there. Our basketball teams just finished their seasons today with both wins.
Girls lost, but they tried really hard and the boys won. So
They both had, I thought, a very successful season. To see where they were when they started back in, end of November, early December, to where they are today, they've shown a tremendous amount of improvement. They should be recognized. Our coaches, Megan and her sister Amy Lotz, are the girls' coaches, and Brendan McKinnon is the boys' coach. Next slide. This is one thing that I'm certainly tickled about and certainly really happy. As you know, Clean Ocean Access, which got in touch with us this summer, we're hoping that they could work with us for a food composting program here at school. Clean Ocean Access dissolved probably about a month and a half ago. I think it was right before the holidays where we found this out. However, we finally got Black Earth, which is the food composting company, come pick up our food compost. It was supposed to be last Friday. They didn't show up, but they will be here. I've been promised that. But bigger than that, we've kind of taken the composting and recycling really to another level. And I have to recognize Mike Ayotte and Miss Amy McLean for really, I mean, stepping this up. We are recycling, we're composting food, recycling the paper trays, recycling the milk cartons. And if you can believe this, we're recycling recyclables. So those packaging that the ring dings come in, that, different things that kids rip open, they actually normally trash and they get recycled to the company in New Jersey. So it's going to have an opportunity to be recycled again. Our trash, which would normally be about 3 garbage bags full, is right now less than half a garbage bag, which is truly amazing.
Well
So that's
cool. Well
that's a
done.
tribute
Very cool.
to our kids, really paying attention to what they're doing when they finish their lunch, but also Mr. Ayotte and Ms. McLean for taking this on. And finally, our Scripps Spelling Bee took place last Thursday. We had 12 students. Unfortunately, 3 couldn't make it, but I do want to recognize all the students. They are Scarlett Patello and Ada Templin in grade 3, Emily Bestoso and Nora Burnett in grade 4, Gregory Mataronis and Amy Morley in grade 5, Amber Vashon and Avery Rocha in grade 6, Asa Hagan and Leah Tripp in grade 7, and Joseph Ware and Cheyenne Dion in grade 8. Our winner, and she will be representing us at the Rhode Island State Scripps Spelling Bee in Cumberland on March 16th. Is Annie Morley, and she's a 5th grader. For a 5th grade student, the poise that she showed was truly phenomenal.
She won last year too.
She was 3rd place last year, but she gave a very strong 8th grade student a run for her money. So Annie is going to be representing us up in Cumberland on March 16th. That is our student spotlight.
Principal McKinnon, great stuff all around.
So good.
Item 5, superintendent report.
Just a
Update on the Wilbur McMahon Solar Project.
Just a quick update. Everything is on target, on schedule. The interconnection has been approved by Rhode Island Energy. The next steps for construction are obtaining approval of the special use permit from the town, obtaining a solar permit as well. Newport Renewables has submitted the special use permit application. They did that earlier last week. And they're expecting the 2 approvals to take a few months to obtain. We have a June target date to start construction after school has let out for the summer. Both these approvals come from the town. The special user permit application has been reviewed already by the town a few times before it was submitted. So Newport Renewables is expecting a pretty straightforward process. So there should be a special use hearing date set before long, and I will keep you all in the loop. So everything's on target. The state grant was approved, the federal money, that was also approved for our project, and onward.
Excellent.
Green energy.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. John McNamee, hope you're not hoarse after your budget presentation earlier. It's that time of the evening. It's time for the finance report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick update on the June 30th, 2023 audit. The auditors have completed their work. We're hoping that they will be issuing their audit report before the end of February. Had a couple of delays, so we're supposed to have it at the end of January, but we should have it at the end of February. So I'm not anticipating any changes from the numbers that I'm have presented in the past months. As far as FY24 goes, my projection, I'm looking at a deficit of about 61,000. We are looking on the revenue side with an increase of about 61.5 from our out-of-district tuitions. We had budgeted 54,000. We should be closer to 155, an increase of 61.5 over the budget. We have on the salary side, we'll have some overages and overtime in also in some training. About 22.5. But the big change is going to be coming in the out-of-district tuition, which we've been talking about quite a bit tonight. Our budget for our CTE programs, which are the kids that are going to the Met and Newport CTE, should end the year at somewhere around 127,000, which is about $49,000 over budget, and that's the result of having additional students going. And out of districts, special education, it should be probably around $37,000 higher than budget. So that alone is about $86,000 overall in the out of district tuitions as a deficit. So that's really what's driving the deficit for this year. It's still a little early. There are a number of items in there that, you know, I'm keeping at the budgeted amount, but we may be less than that. So hopefully we can kind of reduce that number a bit. But at this point in time, we're looking at a small deficit for FY24.
Thank you, John. All right, on to item 7, committee reports. I will save the policy subcommittee report because we have some first reads this evening, unless you ladies would like to.
Just to say that we met on January 24th, and we still have some policies that we're working on. So we'll have another meeting in the next few weeks ahead of our March full committee meeting. So be on the lookout for that agenda and meeting time.
Okay. Thank you, Hannah. Portsmouth School Committee Liaison Report, that is me. Last time I reported that I thought that they did not meet. They in fact did not. They met the Thursday after our last meeting, and they will meet again tomorrow. Just to bring folks up to speed, winter sports are well underway. All the sports, the report from the high school liaison was that they're all trending in a strong direction. Girls and boys sports very strong at Portsmouth this winter. The senior projects have been completed. I guess every year there's a senior project that gets put together and the students pursue that, something that is pertinent to day-to-day solving things within the community. Those have been completed, and I believe there may be a display. They were discussing that at the last meeting. I know there was an inquiry from someone in the audience. The school play this year, I don't have dates, but the school play is going to be Streetcar Named Desire. And another thing I would like to just reference, we have been talking about career and technical education. Portsmouth did do a fair or a bazaar, if you will, where students and parents could come. That was on January 16th. They are continuing with that. They do have a very robust career and technical education program at Portsmouth High School. And then besides that, that is all. Like I said, next school committee meeting is tomorrow for Portsmouth High School, or for the Portsmouth School Committee. Item 7.3, Ms. Sue Canane, the Wellness Committee Liaison Report.
Last meeting was on the 25th of January. There were some parents who brought up the issue of the food quality, and that the kids don't like it. So we're working with Chartwell's to improve the food quality, selections, and some programming. There's a woman, Donna Humphrey, who's going to be joining the committee next meeting, and we'll be talking more about that. There's improvements to the kitchen, and that will be coming in the near future. Student and family wellness. They'll be having their wellness week in March, and the staff is planning on that. And they're working with Chartwell's and the Prevention Coalition to plan activities for the students. Staff wellness. They have a wellness committee within the, it's staff run within the school, and they plan activities for the staff. They have workout Wednesdays, and they have a licensed fitness trainer who comes in. Let's see. And they're working on stuff for March for the kids. The wellness policy, we tweaked the language in the policy, and we'll be doing the first read tonight. And our next meeting is March 21st at 3:30, and come and join us.
Sue, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Excellent report. Item 7.4, Michael is not with us tonight, so I don't believe we will have a town recreation committee liaison report unless there's something to share from one of the members on the board. No? Curious there. And then finally, item 7.5, the negotiation subcommittee report. I believe we are meeting, is it the 26th? I don't know why that date stands out in my mind.
It's not firm yet, but we're waiting for them to.
Yeah,
firm it
they're
up.
supposed
The
to.
ball
I
is
don't
in
know
their
why I
court
thought
right now.
that, but I know that we're waiting on.
That was one we threw out at
Yeah,
them.
okay.
We have to firm it up.
All right, so we
Can you
will,
just loop me into the dates, right? Because I'll start to
yes,
join.
you will be
those.
at that first one. Perfect. And we're waiting to hear back from them. I'll get
Okay.
you all that info.
Okay.
Okay. All right, item 9. Consider, discuss, and vote to approve the 2023-2024 Rhode Island Student Survey. This is something we have done in the past. Lori, would you like to highlight anything, or Sean?
I think we have a guest in the audience.
Yes, please.
Would like
If you
to,
would, yes.
an expert.
I feel like an expert. This Rhode Island Student Survey is administered throughout public schools across the state every 2 years. Little Compton has approved this since 2016. So when I say I'm an expert, this is my 5th go round over 10 years. So I was a baby when I started advocating for this. Rhode Island Student Survey is a social emotional wellness focused survey. It is administered to students in grades 7 through 12. Portsmouth has approved their high school, the high school version at Portsmouth High School in the next few months. The survey is ideally administered in March or early April, but we have a time frame through May. I have to say the 2020 administration was a day, maybe 2 days prior to that magic day when schools shut down for COVID. So Little Compton has been very consistent in approving it and administering it, including that very challenging 2020 year. The survey itself takes less than a class period. High school students are usually done in about 30 minutes, and I don't say the same standard because sometimes middle school students don't read quite as quickly or they have to think about the topic a little bit more than their high school counterparts. There are 81 questions, which sounds overwhelming, but programmed into the administration is called a skip pattern. So if your answer to a question is no, you just move on to the next section. They don't continue, the questions don't continue to ask you over and over about the same topic if you've already said no. For example, if a student is asked about whether or not they've ever used a vape device or an electronic cigarette and they say no, they don't get any further questions. So although our paper, 81 questions, for our young students, maybe asked closer to 20 questions or something, of that nature. Because much of the information that we're sharing will just be sort of a no or just a one-time question and answer. The survey is confidential and anonymous. They tell us to say that. I don't know what the difference is, but students are not identified in any way. And so that's the anonymity. The confidentiality piece is that even in aggregate, the below a certain number of students, the school wouldn't get anything that could possibly be identifiable. So if there was, I don't know how many seventh graders you have, but if only 10 seventh graders took the survey, you would not get results because it would be it would be a challenge to keep it confidential, even though it would be anonymous. And then it's also voluntary. So the student can decide not to participate, and the proctors are instructed that that's just fine if they don't want to do it. If they start and either lose interest or just decide it's not for them, there's no penalty for stopping. None of their answers will be recorded. So it's confidential, anonymous, and voluntary. They can start and stop, like I just said. There's, if a kid doesn't want to do it after they check it out and see what it is, that's just fine as well. Those are my main points. Questions? Oh, the other part is it's administered online through a secure password protected portal. And it is evaluated by an organization over at the University of Rhode Island. It's actually their Cancer Research Institute, which has nothing whatever to do with the survey. It's just that they're trained researchers and they can run the evaluative programs to get the analysis. It seems like it takes forever to get the analysis back. I'm not exactly sure why. Maybe they don't prioritize the content the way that I do. But they do it with the state of Rhode Island, and we usually will get the whole report back between 6 and 8 months. So hopefully by the end of the year, usually October.
Yes, thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions?
I do.
Go right ahead.
Let's see. So the kids who, if they want to take the survey, are grades 7 to 12? Is that what you said? The parents will be given all this information. They'll be given the survey. They can review the survey before, like parents will either opt in or opt out, like for their kid to take the survey. They'll have all that information ahead of
I
time.
don't remember when we ended on that last year, not 2 years ago.
Last time it was administered. I didn't introduce you, Rebecca. I thought everyone knows you anyway, but still.
Should have introduced myself.
Yeah. So good.
I can do that now. I'm Rebecca Elwell. I do apologize. I grew up here, so I just skipped that step. I am the executive director of an organization for Newport County called Strategic Prevention Partnerships. And I'm also the acting director for the Newport County Prevention Coalition. So I have worked with some folks here on some of those initiatives. We're primarily a mental health and substance use prevention organization. And pretty much since 2020, we've taken on some additional social service projects because of, as you know, the need, meeting basic needs for folks, housing, but primarily our work is to bring in resources into our county to support the social emotional learning of our youth. So that's me. Then we
We'll put it up. We have the other one up the last time it was administered. So that's where we did end up, Chair. This committee asked for a link to the document. And we did get a hold of this year's preemptive strike a bit, and we did, was that shared with you?
I was gonna say, I've already received all the information from the school social, the school counselor. It had tons of information, included the link to everything that's in the survey. The contact for the school counselors, if any families have questions ahead of time. So, yeah, I received that probably last week, actually, already,
On the website.
for both of my eighth graders.
We did put it on the website a few years ago. This committee did ask for us to do that, and I'll show you where it is. And we will, once you approve this year's survey, we will put that up. And that's highly unusual. I think this is one of the only districts that does that.
And is a link easy for the parents? Is it right next to the information that they can, like, if you say to the parents, hey, there's this survey that the kids can take, and you're
This is
giving
it.
them that information, is a link like right there?
Right there.
Their email.
So they don't have to go searching for it?
It's literally, it was all bulleted out for us with the link to the whole survey, right, with all that information. Yeah, it was.
Right there, Rhode Island Student Survey, clicking.
Form section on our website by clicking on that Rhode Island Student Survey link there.
And that's a hard copy of the one that that was administered a few years ago. And so the parents, get to see what their kids will be interacting with online. And they'll get to see the types of questions, the scope of the survey and what kind of data will be collected. It's around, youth risk behaviors, et cetera, social emotional health, and substance use is a huge issue. So we were asked to do that a few years ago, and we did do that, and it's been up there since 2022, and it will replace it with the 2024. So all the parents know. And Mary Elizabeth Miller and also Cara DiGiulio, they will also send a direct link if parents want access to that hard copy. But it is unusual. I've worked in other districts. Shared with.
Yes, to be posted somewhere for folks to, and I think that's great.
Yep,
Opportunity to see it.
Yep, the community asked.
I think there were 3, maybe 4 parents that opted out
Right.
the last administration.
Right.
Just, it's not necessarily as parents as well.
This is also affiliated with the Department of Health and RIDE,
Behavioral health and.
Department of Education.
With 2 eighth graders, I know how important this topic is, and I appreciate everything that you're doing for Little Compton. And I think that, having these answers is super helpful to know how to support the needs of our students. Yeah.
Sue, go ahead. Any questions?
I wasn't keen on some of the questions. I felt like, 7th graders, I understand kids aren't as innocent as they were years ago, but you're still going to have kids who might be innocent. And I think some of these things might get them, I don't know, either you're planting seeds or you're opening a door that maybe a parent hasn't opened yet. And I don't know, I have a hard time with it. That's just me. I just might be old fashioned, and I would rather take this and sit down with my kid and say, hey, let's talk, and not that, I understand what you're doing and where you're coming from and all that good stuff. And I guess I just want to make sure that parents have enough time to really read it, digest it, and make a good informed decision and not, not be surprised or blindsided or whatever.
This conversation is very similar to 2 years ago when we brought this
Right.
before the board to have it approved, and I said the same thing last time. I overjoyed if parents opened this link
And look,
and looked, read through it and said, you know what, I need to have a conversation with my kiddos. Certainly not run down the laundry list of items, but prioritize, choose a thing. No, I don't know if my kid knows about this. And it would be much preferable for that information to come from a parent than peers, because we know there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of topics that come up, whether it be about mental health or substance use. Would be fabulous for parents to be sharing that information. The unfortunate thing is, sometimes parents don't even have the language to share it with. It's like the topic that you put away for another day. Well, when I feel like my kid needs to know this, I'll tell them. By the time that gets there, the kid has a lot of information, and sometimes it's not accurate information. It's not the information the parent would prefer them to have. So that's my way of agreeing about parental participation in this. If I had the control to put something out there, I would encourage parents to do this much earlier than you need to. This information, our kids are so tech involved, and if they don't have technology and are teaching themselves about some of these topics, their buddy has the technology and is teaching them about it, and you know that can end up in a lot of misinformation for kids. This is not meant to inform, it's simply meant to gather information about the child's experiences, behavioral, but also perceptions. Like, is this harm? Do you think this is harmful? About this, and again, that's perception, because some kids might not know that their parents really think about a topic. But if a child perceives that a parent is really against cigarette use, that is a protective factor, and that child will say, my parents would not want me to do this. So that, so do you know those things? Where are kids more vulnerable, and where when they need more information? And that's, that information is provided in aggregate to the school, so that if there's, and that's where Mary Elizabeth comes in to the mix, for this folks, but that's where those folks can come in and say, this group of 8th graders, they don't know about some of the things that they're going to be exposed to next year as high school students. How do we provide some additional information, additional support for them? And then, so that's the school use of it. And then the survey is also used by folks in roles like mine to bring resources, financial resources, human resources in to the communities. So that we make sure that we're providing as much support, information as needed, particularly for parents. I don't have interaction with youth, but I do have a lot of interaction with parents, trying to put parents in together to give them the information that they can get back in their own way to bring it to their own kids.
And you do have access to the 2024 version. It's in the executive content area. And once you approve, we will put it up on the site. And also Mary Elizabeth has been asked in the past 2 years ago, notably, and she did send it to those parents who reached out to her as a link. She is the one who captured this updated version for us, the hard copy.
Excellent. Are there any other questions from the committee?
Let's vote.
Excellent. I will consider a motion to approve the 2023-2024 Rhode Island Student Survey.
So moved.
Do I have a second? We will vote via roll call. Carolyn?
Okay, Travis Audi,
Aye.
Hannah Ayott,
Aye.
Megan Gonzalez,
Aye.
Susan Kinane.
No.
Motion passes 3-1. Item 9.2, consider, discuss, and vote to amend the wellness policy. This will be our first read tonight.
If I may, Chair. So
Please.
this policy was, we were asked as the subcommittee to look at this from the wellness subcommittee. The minor change is right here. You see in red, we're striking the use of any food to reward children to improve their behavior is prohibited. We like to have some, end of the year ice cream parties, those special
Sweet tart.
occasions where we can celebrate, a class or a whole grade. This restrictive language kind of doesn't allow those kinds of fun times to happen. So we're gonna try to strike this language hopefully next month when we vote.
Excellent.
I could provide some context. The person who has preached this policy a few times is sitting right.
I raised my hand.
He owned it.
And so we don't want him to be written up for, no, but ice cream, sometimes food can be an inducement for improved behavior and rewards as well. So it works for me.
Everybody likes to.
No, let the hoodsie cups right down, Principal McKenna.
And then all year, no, just kidding.
Thank you, Ms. Hannah. And then item 9.3, this will be the first read of the amendment to the Library Youth Center policy, please.
And for this one, we are just kind of fine tuning the procedure for handling complaints. We have a pretty extensive 26-step procedure here that just talks about the levels of complaints that members of the public can make. And then I can just boot that over to Lori for any further comment.
Sure. I think we were the only library in the state or district in the state that did not have a reconsideration of materials process, a laid out process for responding to stakeholder questions and complaints, or just requests to reconsider either a classroom resource or generally library resources that fall under this. And so I went to the American Library Association and the American Association of School Librarians, and I captured their exemplar, and this is it. Now, it is written for a large district with several schools and several principals and several district administrators. So I did have to pare it down, not the scope of it, but definitely the types of staff members involved at each stage. So of course, the first person that the complainant would be sort of approached by, if the librarian gets a request to reconsider material, it would be the librarian himself or herself, and then the principal. And after that, the complaint would go into this formal process. And I've worked in districts using this same process, 3 other districts, and also served as a consultant for public libraries and other school libraries around this issue. And so this is a process that supports the complainant, the person who is requesting that something in the library be reconsidered, and also is supporting that particular resource as remaining on the shelves until the process, the consideration process, has been resolved, reconciled, etc. So the first step would be librarian, then the principal, and then it would go to a reconsideration committee, and that would include building level staff members. And if the decision rendered by that committee was not acceptable to the complainant, the stakeholder, then that complaint would go to a district-wide committee. And so we don't have a lot of staff, so the district-wide committee would include the IT director, because we don't have an assistant superintendent, we don't have a district media services director, that sort of thing. And so the item remains on the shelf or online if it's an online subscription database or other resource that the library has archived for online use for kids and staff. And if the stakeholder is not happy with the district level decision, at that point, that is the librarian, principal, building level reconsideration of materials team, then the district, and then that person could go to the school committee. And the school committee would take up that complaint. And there is a form attached. The form was always attached. If you scroll down a bit, Jonathan, thank you so much. There was always a form attached. There was always a request for reconsideration of resource, but never a process laid out. And that wasn't clear to us until last year, when there was a stakeholder who did have concerns about various resources. And so, it did behoove us to take that empty space that every other district has and use the American Library Association and Association of School Librarians process. I have chaired some of these committees in the past, and this is a process that does work. It protects every single stakeholder in the process. And it's boilerplate stuff is what I'm saying. This is a little bit different here because we are so small.
Sean, anything to add?
I think Lori wrapped it up just fine. I think that most districts do have a review policy, and I think to Lori's point, from a legal perspective, having the different levels, although it might seem onerous for such a small district, having that input from multiple people, I think does serve to protect not only the complainant's interest in that perspective, but also the perspective of students. And you want to have a process in place, because ultimately, when school districts don't have a process in place, and school committees either start to remove a lot of material, that's when we start to see lawsuits generated. In fact, a lawsuit that went to the Supreme Court, a bit dated now, but the 70s or 80s, it was found that school students have a First Amendment right to materials in public libraries and schools, and that school committees couldn't arbitrarily and capriciously remove texts. So this process, as laid out by the superintendent, protects against that, protects the district from a legal perspective, and encourages intellectual freedom.
Did I see a question in the back there? I will entertain a question from Dr. Andy Ryan.
Thank you, Andy Ryan, for treasurer. Does this policy allow people to complain about missing material in the library as well?
I believe so. Does it not, Lori, to
You
like
could always.
review all media?
Yeah, reach out. We consider the fact that this is something is missing from the collection. It wouldn't be a process like this. It would be more a collection development issue with the librarian and the principal.
Why wouldn't it follow this policy? I'm just curious, so if a book was not available to our kids to read that was important, but for some reason wasn't in the library, it seems like without a policy like this, someone would just decide that it's not. And I think if you're looking at removing material and you have a policy to allow some type of process, make sure there's steps in places, that adding material should also.
Yep, we do.
Okay.
Yep, scroll up. Scroll up. Yeah.
I only read the yellow.
If he goes all the way up, yes, we have an entire collection development area, and it does list all of the rationale that, for purchasing materials. High quality materials. So yes, criteria for selection. There we go.
And then certainly to speak to the question, if there was media that was not available, that was made suggested to the librarian, they can then go through the process to see if it would qualify as something that would be brought into the school.
Yep, it would be measured against the
Sure.
criteria for selection of materials. It would have to have positive reviews in review media like School Library Journal, Hornbook, Voya, New York Times Review of Books, all the review media. I think some of them are actually listed here. Yep.
I saw that.
Yep, it's all good stuff. And someone who's ran school libraries
Right there.
for years. Yep, that's just some. And there's not an item ever added to a library collection where there is not criteria that it is measured against. That's why We don't really encourage a lot of donations of old books from, because sometimes they're outdated. A lot of people will call and say, hey, I have an old set of, World Book encyclopedias. My kids are growing. Like, well, thank you so much. But no. And so, the materials have to be up to date. They have to be, star reviews and some of those review media, et cetera. And libraries literally are built brick by brick, book by book, website by website, online subscription database at a time, and highly vetted. And those are some of the measures there. And if there's anything missing, tell us. We'll buy it if it meets selection criteria.
Excellent. Thank you, Lori.
No problem.
Do any members have requests for information from the administration or legal counsel?
No, I just don't know if this is like the appropriate time to
Let's find out.
sorry, this is still learning this process, but I want to start the discussion of having our special services into science and social studies classrooms, our push-in services for our special education. So I don't know if that is where that needs to begin.
Like an agenda topic?
That begins with administration.
Okay.
I think they can have internal discussions if at some point in the near future, we need to have a school committee discussion, then we'd have an agenda item on that.
Beautiful.
You can always individually speak to the superintendent, to just get updates, or she can provide updates in her weekly memos.
So,
Okay.
just to clarify, you are looking for us to analyze the way we're using our our co-teachers, case managers.
Yep.
And ELA and math are, obviously where they're pushing in.
And I want to see where and how the supports 504 or IEPs are implemented and supported outside of ELA and math.
Yeah. It all depends on the language within the document itself, particular to the student. So, but we will have those discussions.
Excellent. Great question. Certainly get back. Seeing as how there's no more business before this body tonight, I adjourn this meeting. I cannot do that.
You have to vote.
I thought I could do that.
Says consider and vote to adjourn.
Santa is always on us.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll vote, be a roll call.
Okay, Travis Audi,
Aye.
Hannah Ayat. Megan Gonzalez.
Aye.
Susan Canane.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.